They're American aircraft, lend-leased to Britain to support the war effort. Their incredible 2,500-mile range makes them ideal for long-distance searches. They comb the seas for hours. Then, at 10:30 a.m., 36 hours after losing her, a PBY crew spots a dull black shape moving across the water. Bismarck has been found. Bismarck has been spotted here, 700 miles from the coast of France. Admiral Tovey's battle group is here, 130 miles directly north. Tovey must slow Bismarck down to get in range to strike. In perfect position for this mission is a task group steaming in from the south, known as Force H, which includes the aircraft carrier Ark Royal. May 26, 1941, 7 p.m., 8 hours after finding Bismarck, 15 Swordfish torpedo bombers from Ark Royal speed toward the German battleship. Lieutenant John Jock Moffat pilots one of the ferry Swordfish.
We were told to go in there and do our best and get as many torpedoes into her as we could possibly do.
Moffat and his crew break through the clouds and descend on their target.
My first impression of the Bismarck, when I saw it on my starboard side about 2 miles away, it was really awesome.
Moffat's flight of 3 Swordfish close in at 115 miles per hour.
6,000 feet, all of a sudden, all hell was let loose.
Bismarck's anti-aircraft gunners desperately filled the sky with flak.
I had no doubts about what was going to happen, and I was scared stiff. I thought the only way I could survive was to get as low as possible. And the nearer I got to the ship, I was hoping that wouldn't be able to get their guns down low enough.
Moffat closes to within 2,000 yards and prepares to launch.
There was a voice suddenly says to me, "Not yet, Jock." And this was my observer. And I thought, what's happening? And he kept saying it, "Not yet, not yet." And then out of the corner of my eye, I happened to turn slightly to the right, and there was a friend of mine hanging outside this aircraft with his bottom in the air, but I don't know how he did it, in fact. But he was leaning right outside the aircraft with his head right underneath the fuselage. And he was shouting, "Not yet, not yet." And then it dawned on me why.
In these high seas, Moffat's observer knows that if a torpedo hits the top of a wave, the impact could veer it off course. With only 1 torpedo, he has to make the shot count. He hangs upside down, judging the wave height, waiting for the right moment.
If you could release the torpedo that went into a trough of the wave, then you had a chance. And that's when he said to me, "Let her go." And when I said, "Let her go," he said, "Jock, we've got a runner."
Bismarck makes a hard turn to port to avoid the torpedo. It's a fatal miscalculation. 51 seconds after Moffat launches, the deadly missile strikes Bismarck's port side on her stern. The violent explosion tears a huge hole in the hull.
The shock was so strong that rivets flew off the bulkhead. There was a sound like the ship was tearing apart.
Bismarck's unarmored twin rudders, angled for the hard turn to avoid the torpedo, jam 12 degrees to port.
Und Leutnant Richter, die stiegen dann von unserem U-Raum
They sent 2 men down in diving suits to try to fix the rudder mechanism. But the water was rushing in too fast to the big hole, so we all had to come back up.
Weil das Loch und der Seegang zu stark war und mussten wieder hochkommen.
The Swordfish have crippled the mighty battleship. With rudders jammed, Bismarck can only steam back toward her enemy.
Wir wissen ja nur von der Schiffsführung.
We knew that all efforts failed to steer the ship. We were alone, surrounded by enemies.
Gegen Nordwest fahren konnten.
Admiral Gunther Lütjen signals Berlin. Ship unmaneuverable. We will fight to the last shell. Long live the Führer. The British close in. The hunt for the Bismarck steams toward a bloody climax. May 27, 1941. Battleship Bismarck, crippled by courageous Swordfish pilots, steams helplessly toward the waiting guns of her enemies. Air power has demonstrated its supremacy over the mightiest warship. The British surface fleet closes in for the killing blow.
Finally, there's an opportunity to avenge the Hood, and the British go into action confident that they can achieve this.
On King George V, Fleet Admiral John Tubby plots his tactics. His plan? Force the cornered German ship to divide its fire against multiple targets. Then turn his ship's broadside, unleashing massive firepower. Battleships Rodney and King George V speed to within 12 miles of Bismarck. At 8:47 a.m., Rodney's 16-inch guns fire. Then King George V. Shells rain down around Bismarck. The British crew stuff cotton in their ears to deaden the sound. Their throats sting as they breathe in the cordite fumes after each salvo. The desperate German battleship strikes back.
Lütjen's first act was to open fire on the aged battleship Rodney. It's been suggested by some that, like Hood, he saw her as an older ship and thought, perhaps weaker, he could take her out and lessen the odds against her.
Both sides miss their targets. With each salvo, the gunners adjust their rangefinders. With her rudders jammed, Bismarck can't maneuver. She's an easy target. Rodney scores the first hit on Bismarck at 9:02 a.m. The British have the range and let loose with everything they have.
We were firing broadside. We were firing 10 shells at a time. 10 14-inch shells were going all over it. And that's a hell of a lot of shells for one ship to take.
Two British cruisers, Norfolk and Dorsetshire, join the fight. Bismarck is being pummeled from all sides.
Ich kann nur von dem Endkampf erzählen, dass wir nur ab und zu
Shell splinters rained through the air ducts that supplied our fresh air. The shells were hitting us fast, violently.
Then, King George V's 14-inch guns make a critical hit.
in dem Moment ging eine Granate.
A shell hit the gunnery control and also the main battery. The men screamed because of all the sulfur steam. It scalded them terribly.